For a professional boxer, your corner team can have an absolutely massive impact on the outcome of your fight. In recent times, we've seen some absolutely fantastic corner performances that have been, frankly, decisive.
We are firemen! The heat doesn't bother us! We live in the heat! We train in the heat!
Yeah, let's go.
But in other situations, we've seen confusing, subpar performances.
Don't be afraid to slide in. Slide in. Quit pulling back or you're getting caught. Box now, move like win these 2 rounds. Go, Timmy, you won it. You've won the fight.
In this video, we're going to be taking a look at some of the best and some of the worst corner moments in recent boxing history.
Roll the dice. Roll that dice.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to A Guy Called Henry. I hope you're all doing incredibly well. In this video, as I said, we're going to be taking a look at boxing corners. We've had some incredible moments from boxing corners in recent history. Stuff that's gone a little bit viral and has utterly confused the viewers and pundits alike. In this video, I'm going to be starting us off with a little excerpt from an interview with Bomac, who is Terence Crawford's trainer, who's obviously fresh off the back of that win over Canelo Alvarez. And the way he described the way their team works, it really inspired me. It really made me think of all the crap I've seen. Some great moments too, but a lot of crap that I've seen recently from corners. Things that have led fighters to potentially defeat or at the very least difficult moments. But please do get your comments in the comments section below. What are your best and worst memories of corner performances in professional boxing in recent history? Just before I jump in, don't forget to bang a like on the video, guys, if indeed you do like it. Don't forget to subscribe to A Guy Called Henry if you're new. We're so close to that 20K now, I can almost smell it. And finally, enjoy the video.
I run the corner and I run the gym with the coaches just like a football team. You got the defensive coordinator, you got the offensive coordinator, you got the linebackers coach. Same thing that they do, we do. Me and Red, we break the fight down in the corner. Red talked to me about what he's doing more, what the opponent, what the opponent's doing more. And while we in the gym, I'll pull back and I'll say, "Can you guys work the corner? I'm gonna score the round and see how you look in the corner, see how you performing. I'll give you the thumbs up or I'll give you the thumbs down if I think you won that round."
Now, I'm going to be giving you my top 5 moments from boxing corners in recent boxing history. They're a mixture of good and bad, things that had a positive impact on the outcome of a fight for their fighter, and some that kind of massively hindered their performances. And I'm actually going to start with Terence Crawford. Now, you could hear there, the team is run in a very, very effective and efficient way. They said they treat it almost like an NFL team where they've got an offensive coordinator, a defensive coordinator, and they all have different roles and responsibilities. But above all, they have fantastic communication in the ring. And sometimes a dose of reality is what a fighter needs. And I'm actually going to start here with number 1 in my list, my favorite moments from recent history, with Terence Crawford, because hearing Bomac talk here, it really reminded me of a moment in Terence Crawford's career that was testament to the organization of the corner. Now, while Bomac runs the corner, it's clear that there's other influential voices in there, and that really shone in his fight against Shawn Porter when he stopped him in round 10 of their contest. Now, the context around this fight was that it was a really, really important one for Terence Crawford to win. He was defending his WBO belt, and this wasn't actually that many fights back for Terence Crawford. He's actually only had 4 fights since that win over Shawn Porter. He only fights once a year, and it's one of the sad things about Terence Crawford's career, I suppose, is that we don't get to see him fight more. But this win over Shawn Porter was absolutely essential for him, as he was struggling to get bigger names in the ring, and he needed to defend his WBO welterweight title. A win over Shawn Porter further cemented that he was one of the best fighters in the division. It added another marquee name from the welterweight division to his record. And with Shawn Porter having only lost at this point to the likes of Kell Brook, Keith Thurman, and Errol Spence Jr., if he could do it better than them, that sort of established Terence Crawford as the man in the division, or further established him as the man in the division. And look, this was a close affair. It was a very decent matchup. Shawn Porter definitely had his moments. I thought Crawford was winning when it approached the 10th round, but without question, Porter was in the fight. And something we so often see in the ring is corners lying to their fighter, telling them that things are going better than they really are. And I don't know about you guys, but if I was a fighter, I would want to know exactly where I stood from an objective perspective. I'd want to know, am I down? Do I need to turn the screw? It's one of the debates we constantly see in boxing about the fact that the scoring is masked until the end of the fight. The fighters don't really know where things stand. They don't know if they need a knockout going into the 12th round on the judges' scorecards because we can't see the scores until everything's read out. But I think that dose of honesty, that dose of reality is what probably every fighter needs, especially in those championship rounds.
You got 9 minutes. You're blowing it now, son. You're blowing it. Measuring his spots, pounding to the body, and a right to the head. Then Davey Pearl steps, and that's it.
We've definitely seen a lot of confusion in the ring before. It always reminds me of Tyson Fury 1 when he had multiple different voices shouting at him, telling him things that weren't true. We remember Anthony Joshua when he fought Oleksandr Usyk the first time.
Now.
A little off kilter.
Echoes of brilliant AJ ringing around the arena from his corner when he was very clearly getting beaten up. Sometimes a fighter needs a bit of tough love, and that's exactly what the corner gave Terence Crawford here going into those championship rounds.
He's not jumping in as much as he's not jumping in like come on, bro, pay attention to it. He's not jumping in like he was. Yeah, come on. Hey, we gotta go.
Crawford looks a little confused there, but the corner has actually said to him, you are going to lose this fight right now on the cards. They have got him up. And all it takes is a simple nod, I understand, and he goes out there and he absolutely takes him out. He turns the switch, as they say. It's so impressive from Terence Crawford, and without that piece of corner work, he probably doesn't go to the next level. He probably doesn't flip the switch. They could have lied to him and said, you know, oh yeah, you're up, Terence, no problem, you're winning. They gave Crawford exactly what he needed to hear in that moment. And even though they may have thought he was up on the cards, because he was for me at that point, and the judges actually did have him up on the scorecards by a round or two at that point, the fact that they knew the right buttons to press to go and get him to go to another level in the fight is testament to the organization and understanding of the corner of their fighter, Terence Crawford. Now, from this good moment, from this good piece of corner work, we're going to go to what was a pretty terrible corner performance for a fighter, and this one is very, very fresh and recent in our minds. It's when Daniel Dubois took on Oleksandr Usyk for the second time. And whilst I can't really comment on the in-the-ring performance of the corner, because I'm not exactly sure what instructions were given to him, I certainly can say that his preparation for this fight was less than ideal, and there's a couple of factors in that. Now, Daniel Dubois in this fight got completely wiped out by Oleksandr Usyk, and if anything, he was actually worse than he was in the first fight. You could argue that's down to Usyk being better prepared, being more established and ready as a heavyweight when he fought Daniel Dubois for the second time. But the tactics, the game plan, and the events that unfolded in the build-up to the fight certainly did Daniel Dubois no favors. The first and most startling thing that we heard was that his father, Stan Dubois, had thrown a party just hours before the event at Wembley Stadium. And look, in fairness to them, this is something that they'd done before. Apparently, before his win against Anthony Joshua, which was a career-best performance from Daniel Dubois, he absolutely steamrolled Anthony Joshua in that fight. They'd done the same thing. They'd had a party. They kind of got him confident, got him feeling good, and maybe, got his head out of the stress and nerves that surround the fight and the build-up to it. So they thought, let's do the same thing again. Why try and fix what isn't broken? The problem was this time it was a very different vibe as I understand it. There was many more people at the party. There were people that Daniel Dubois didn't know, and there were reports that he himself did not want to be there and had to ask his father's permission to leave the party. Now, following this, as I understand it, they arrived slightly late to the venue, and a part of that was because Stan Dubois, Daniel Dubois' dad, was trying to force his way into the arena with an entourage that did not have accreditation or tickets or something like that. And you can imagine how this would disrupt Daniel's preparation before he got into the ring. He needs to be confident, he needs to be relaxed. He doesn't need any outside nonsense, especially coming from your team. I can imagine this was highly distracting. And now I don't know if it would have changed the outcome of the fight, but it's just certainly less than ideal, to say the least. The second thing that struck me was this interview after the fight with Don Charles, where he said this.
So the first run, from my recollection, I've watched it back since then, went good. With the exception of, I think we took 3 solid jabs from Usyk. Normally he loops it over. This time he opted to go under our guard, because we came in with, I said to Daniel, one of the main things for this fight, I want a left high guard, being as we got beat from a jab, dropped with 2 times with a jab. So we have to shield that left side and cut off his supply, his entrance. The man is a genius, because obviously he must have anticipated we're going to do that. It's not rocket science. We thought we had his entrance blocked. He opted to go on that.
Now, the tactics that he described, it sounds very convincing. It sounds like he knows what he's talking about. But what surprises me here is that when I did my tactical analysis in the build-up to this fight, the change that he talks about Usyk doing is not actually, in my opinion, a change. I think it's very, very clear. The change that Don Charles is describing from Oleksandr Usyk is something that he also did in the first fight. So yes, whilst he described the jab over the lead hand in the first fight as the thing that was most impactful, that took out Daniel Dubois, it's how we remember the knockout happening, the jab through the guard, the up jab that he describes, was also something that Usyk started the fight with in the first fight, but used consistently. And so to say that he was surprised to see it, that it was an adjustment in the second fight, I found this utterly confusing. And to me, if he really believes that that's a change, they either haven't studied and understood what happened in the first fight correctly, or he's simply looking for excuses and reasons that other people just won't understand as to why the fight went wrong, because they just don't have that sort of level of detail, attention to detail, that was already happening in the first fight. I honestly don't get it, but to me this just screams of they were not prepared for this rematch tactically. Now look, my personal opinion with this one was that Daniel Dubois' style meant that he was never going to be able to defend in a way that meant he could challenge Oleksandr Usyk, because he uses his legs primarily, and Usyk's legs are just so much better than his. Daniel Dubois doesn't really have a guard. It's a bit of an illusion. I've said it many times. You've heard me talk about it before if you've been on this channel before. But the point is, once again, it appears to be poor tactical planning from his corner, from his team. It's poor preparation from his team, and the whole thing resulted in him being absolutely flattened in emphatic fashion by Oleksandr Usyk. Now, rolling into number 3 on our list, in a way we go from bad to worse, in my opinion. And it is when Teofimo Lopez took on George Kambosos Jr. And in this fight, people were absolutely bewildered by some of the corner feedback from his father, Teofimo Lopez Sr. Now, the father-son trainer-fighter relationship is one that is often up for debate. You know, is this the ideal scenario for a fighter? Some people would say, yes, the father knows his son better than anyone. Some people say, no, they're there purely through the fact they're related rather than through merit, that the father doesn't give the best advice because he's too emotionally invested. And that's something you certainly could argue with Teofimo Lopez Sr. I think with this one, people are absolutely shocked because, yes, George Kambosos has been a world-level fighter, a very decent operator, but I don't think anybody thought that he was on the level of Teofimo Lopez. And this fight was wild. They both got knocked down. It was a fiery affair. I'll never forget that moment in round 1 when Kambosos knocked down Teofimo Lopez. It was so electric. And whilst it did turn into a bit of a close affair in the end, it wasn't a wildly wide fight on the scorecards. It was something that went in ebbs and flows. I think it was the fact that Kambosos did win the fight, and I think it was clear for most people he did. It was a reasonably competitive fight still, but it was a win for Kambosos. And the fact that Teofimo was just so hittable in this fight, the fact that he was seemingly rushing his work, was just something we weren't really, I don't want to say used to, but he'd just come off the back of that huge win against Lomachenko. To go from that win to losing to George Kambosos, it just didn't really add up. It didn't really make sense. And it just seemed that he had a lack of respect for what George Kambosos would be able to do in the ring. And this was reflected in the corner work from Teofimo Lopez Sr. It was confusing as hell. After round 1, he gets to the corner and his father's saying to him,
He's done! Watch yourself! That's why I said, time, take your time. Bro, the right hand is working. Finish him already. What the fuck is going on? All right, just relax.
You can hear the contradiction there. And after the fight, he refused to accept that Kambosos had actually won it.
Do you feel like the layoff, continuing to push the fight, had anything to do with that?
Don't talk to me like that, man. Everybody knows he won that fight. Everybody knows that. You know what I'm saying? I had it 10-2, 9-3. You know, everybody was just upset. They booed the decision.
But then we do see him after that taking some responsibility, saying it was sort of his fault in the build-up to the Josh Taylor fight, the way that he fought. He took responsibility for some of the seemingly lackluster performances from Teofimo Lopez in this period. And Teofimo did leave his dad for a bit. He had a brief spell with Eddie Reynoso, who obviously is the longtime trainer of Canelo Alvarez. But he is now back with Senior, and he recently had a decent win over Barboza Jr. We've seen Lopez Sr. involved in some pretty hilarious things outside the ring. I'll never forget his showdown with Eddie Hearn.
That's your boy. That's his boy, bro. That's why he talks like that. That's a pussy right there, bro. I know pussy. I'm from the fucking gutter. I know pussy when I see it. You're smarter than that, bro. You're smarter than that. Don't disrespect my son. Don't disrespect my son.
I mean, and it just seems to be in the nature of this guy. You know, one second he's telling you he hates you, the next second he's telling you that he loves you. I think that's just the way that this guy is. The long and short of it with this one was that it seemed at the time that Teofimo was good, typically in spite of the corner, because the instructions were so bad. But I think on reflection, they just were kind of shocked at how well Kambosos did, and they refused to accept be reflective and look at the error of their ways in that one. And afterwards, he does seem to become a little more reflective as time moves on. He said he took away his son's counter-punching style. So yeah, it wasn't a good corner performance from Lopez Sr., as we could all see. It wasn't a good performance from Teofimo in the ring himself. And ultimately, it might still be the best matchup if they've grown and evolved since that time. But for sure, in isolation on that night, this was a very, very poor corner performance. He wasn't able to get something else out of Teofimo Lopez. He wasn't able to change the flow of the fight. Now, from what was a particularly difficult night, we're going to something a bit more positive, something a bit different. And this is one that some of you might not have noticed, but it's one I take great personal interest in, and it's one that is relevant in the next couple of weeks. When Dave Allen fought Johnny Fisher for the first time, I think everybody thought that he should have won that fight. And for those of you that don't know Dave Allen, the story of Dave Allen is absolutely fantastic. This is a guy who I have always supported. You know, he's probably the last fighter, and I've always said this, that I actually am a fan of. I love this guy. He's a brilliant character. I've worked with him in the past, and I just have a great soft spot for Dave Allen. And he's someone that I want to succeed. I want to see him do well. And it's not just because I like him. It's because I've always been able to see the talent with Dave Allen, some of the skills that he has. And the reality with Dave Allen is he's just never taken the sport seriously enough. Until now. And it's in this first fight with Johnny Fisher where he wasn't fully fit, but we see glimpses of a fighter that very clearly can compete at a certain level. And what that level is, we don't even know yet, because this guy does have untapped potential. But in the Fisher 1 fight, I felt he very clearly won it by a round. And you would say that, you know, losing a fight by a round, it's not a robbery if you don't get the decision. But the fact is that it was so easy to score it for Dave Allen that in my mind, that's a robbery. Yes, he didn't win all the rounds, but yes, he also did knock him down, and he came on stronger in the fight than Johnny Fisher did. But because this first fight was so close, they decided to have a rematch. And Dave Allen has talked a lot about his corner team, Jamie Moore and Nigel Travis, and I actually have filmed in that gym in the past, and I always thought the setup in there was great. I always felt there was a great atmosphere, and Jamie Moore knows boxing better than most. He's a very, very analytical guy. He's very, very strategic, and he understands the sport. And in this fight, in this rematch, we have evidence of just how important Jamie was in the corner for Dave. I'll let Jamie explain the game plan here, and then I'll show you what happened in the ring.
No, the first 4 rounds, Dave didn't win any rounds, but I was saying to him during the fight, and I've been saying to him during training as well, it's like I feel like it's going to be very similar patterns. You're just going to have to step on him a little bit more. You've got to make sure that you're bulletproof. That was my word I kept saying to you. You've got to be bulletproof. Your hands have got to be so tight going in, because you're going to be literally putting you into sort of enemy lines, and Johnny can really punch. But you've got to make him work to make sure that you start to drag energy out of him. And once you start getting your feet closer, he'll have no choice but in patches then to not punch. I said, please do me a favour. That 1-2, straight 1-2, what we've been working on for 11 weeks, I get at least one off for me, because you've not threw it once yet. And that was the shot what sort of started the ball rolling, when his legs dipped a little bit and then he started to get...
And you can see that's exactly what happened. Dave worked his way into the fight. He was patient. He let Johnny get a little bit nervous that he wasn't landing many clean shots, that Dave was constantly applying front foot pressure. That means you tire the other man out and your gas tank's still nice and full, because all you've had to do is move your feet forwards, and then you just take the sting off. And the thing I think that is most underrated about Dave Allen is his defensive skills. He sees shots coming, he's got a great guard, and he's actually not bad at moving his head and slipping shots. And then when you start to miss and he gets to the inside, that's when he makes you pay. But you can see it's right there. That straight 1-2 that Dave threw. In the 2 fights, I think it was the only time he threw it. And normally we do see Dave with that right hand. He throws it quite wide. He wings it in. It's actually been a fantastic shot for him. But when you get used to a fighter doing a certain thing, you need to change up the pattern. You need to change up the rhythm. And that's exactly what Dave did as he followed Jamie's instruction there with that straight 1-2. And that was the combination. That was the moment that set the whole KO in motion. And then the KO, the stoppage, the combination that Dave threw, it's absolutely world class. It's stunning. And I was shocked by the hand speed of Dave there. It wasn't something that we'd really seen from him many times in his career. But when this guy's fit and he can do it, he puts his punches together beautifully. Now, Dave has got Makhmudov coming up in the next 2 weeks. I think it's in just under 2 weeks' time from now. I'm going to be doing a tactical breakdown for that one, so make sure you look out for that in the next week. But I cannot wait to watch Dave against Makhmudov. He says he's fitter than ever, and I just can't wait to see how he goes in there and implements his style on the scary, scary man that is Arslanbek Makhmudov. Now, the final one, number 5 that we're going to go with, it's a little bit of a wild card pick. It was a big, big moment, but it has since been explained. So I'm going to talk you through this one, what happened, what we all thought had happened, and what the reality of the situation was. And I'm going to give you my verdict on whether or not this was a bad moment in the truest sense of the word. Now, when Anthony Joshua fought Daniel Dubois, I think everybody felt like Anthony Joshua was going to win that fight. He was on a good run of form, seemingly. He'd been knocking out his opponents. He was performing better than he had done in years. And we weren't sure if this was a legitimate comeback by AJ, a new style, a counter-punching style, or if he'd just been matched extremely well. I mentioned it earlier in this video, but in the fight, ultimately what happened was that Daniel Dubois totally steamrolled Anthony Joshua. And to not see Anthony Joshua really land many clean punches on him was a surprise, because Daniel Dubois had, up to that point, become famously susceptible to the right hand. We saw it in the Hrgovic fight. He got peppered with right hands continuously, and he just clearly takes a shot. You know, that's something that Daniel Dubois isn't afraid to do, hadn't been afraid to do. He took a lot of shots. Yes, he'd, potentially quit earlier in his career, but he would eat a lot of punches on the way to those moments. And so I felt fairly confident in saying that Anthony Joshua would land a decisive shot on Daniel Dubois at some point in this fight because his defense just was so bad. And whilst Joshua was getting absolutely battered through the rounds, he did manage to drag himself back into it just before he got completely annihilated. And these were the corner instructions from Ben Davison in the build-up to that knockout.
Roll the dice. Roll that dice. Bubble in his eyes, bring it up.
So at the start of this round, it'll come up fast.
Yeah, so be ready. Slip and bring it up. He'll slip you and be shot.
Looking for an uppercut.
Now, Ben Davison is someone who has become revered as one of the best analytical trainers in the world right now, and I agree with that. He certainly is. And this is seemingly a very unfortunate moment, as after he gave these instructions, instantly the former trainer of Daniel Dubois, Shane McGuigan, who's also an excellent trainer, by the way, said this on the commentary.
In behind that double jab, bring it up, roll the dice. He'll double under the right hand, lift it, yeah?
Roll the dice. Roll that dice. Double in his eyes, bring it up.
I think that's dangerous advice there, to be honest. I mean, getting him to bring it up off the double jab. Daniel throws that right hand straight off that double jab. And by bringing it up, he means an uppercut. He's going to walk himself straight onto his short right hand. If you ask me, I'd just say keep your hands up tight, get through these next 2 rounds, and then use your athleticism late down the stretch.
And then with what happened next... This seemed like terrible advice. However, as we now reflect on this, we realize that Ben Davison wasn't telling him to bring it up off the right hand of Daniel Dubois. He was telling him to bring it up off the 2, which is the double jab, not the 2 as in the right hand, the backhand of Daniel Dubois.
So he's saying Daniel Dubois throws a double jab, then a right hand. He would be 100% correct. That was Daniel's throwing that throughout the fight. We've asked AJ to throw a double jab and bring it up the middle. Daniel was defending AJ's right hand by ducking underneath it. Therefore, if he's ducking underneath your right hand, the correct adjustment is to let him dip onto the right uppercut.
What's the role? And so it makes a little bit more sense, jabbing your way into range, throwing the uppercut, it's one of Anthony Joshua's best punches. His point still stood, which was that Daniel Dubois would get his head off the outside and throw the right hand back over the 2, and therefore he still would have beaten him to that right uppercut. So even though Ben has since explained what happened, I still think that Shane's analysis of the situation, whilst it wasn't exactly what happened, AJ did even more recklessly than throwing the double jab, followed by the uppercut, just was throwing the uppercut straight, which was so easy to time for Daniel Dubois. That was the most reckless version of that situation. Even if he'd done what he was being told to do by the corner, I still think that could have led to him being stopped in that moment. That famous phrase came out of it, roll the dice. I don't think there was anything wrong with AJ rolling the dice. I just think he rolled it in totally the wrong way. They weren't good instructions. Whether AJ followed the way they were told to him or not, he did it wrong, firstly. But secondly, even if he'd followed it to the T, I'm still not sure that was the right thing for him to do. But look, we all make mistakes. I still think they're an excellent corner. They've had excellent results. They're clearly amazingly good at the video analysis stuff. And I do think in this instance, they were just a little bit unlucky that their advice was sort of immediately overruled by what Shane McGuigan said, and then it led to that knockout. It made them look really bad. And it's a funny one with Anthony Joshua because ever since he left Rob McCracken, ever since he had that sort of run of form where he lost those fights to Usyk, he's been searching for the right team. And I felt that he should have stayed with Robert Garcia after that Oleksandr Usyk 2 fight. That was his best performance for me. I think he could have actually built on that and improved with him. He's ended up with Ben Davison, and I do think that Ben is a very good trainer. And I do think that if this Tyson Fury fight eventually gets made, it makes absolute sense to have Ben Davison as your trainer. No one knows Tyson Fury better than him. But guys, let me know what you've thought of this video. Let me know what your best and worst moments are that I haven't covered in this one, and we may do a part 2 in the future. Do bang a like on the video if you've liked it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new. And as I always say, on to the next one.